Good evening, everybody. This is the Mycological Association of Washington, D.C., Incorporated. I'm William Needham, the president, and I'll be giving a brief introduction before we go into tonight's talk. Just to touch on what you're looking at here, we've been leading Morel forays for the last several weeks, results have been a little sparse, I guess, in general. The two pictures on the left, one, and you'll see the size of the hand and the numbers of mushrooms that are what we found for the most part. And then the lower left is the actual mushrooms in the ground. Now, I was talking earlier before we start the meeting, I've been hunting morels for 15 years and do not get frustrated. I've found in my entire life maybe 10 or 20, ones and twos. And I'd almost given up. And just as by happenstance, a friend of mine bought some property near Shenandoah Park, and we set out into the woods and went at least 3 miles in, and 3 hours later, looking just everywhere, finding nothing. We almost turned around, and there at the last stop, that table on the right, we found those all in one place. There were 90 of them. So that is called the mother lode. So it's out there. You just have to stick with it. So the cicada part, these pictures were taken in 2004. That's the adult cicada in the upper left with a little W on the wing. And that's, of course, how they pupate and then become adults. So just a couple things, probably everybody's, there are actually 3 species of 17-year locust and 4 species of 13-year locust. And there are a total of 15 broods. Brood 10, it's not brood X, is the largest one. They're all come out at different times, and there's a reason for that. It has to do with the glacial melting, and at least the DNA shows that. These are unique to North America. There are 3,000 species of cicada and 1,000 in North America alone, but only these have gone to this 17-year cycle. Fascinating. Get out there in the next 2 weeks, because it's going to be a concert you will hear not again for another 17 years. So here is the board, and I've already introduced myself, and you'll be hearing from Tom McCoy is our program chair, Mitch Fournay is our foray chair, and the other members are there. If you need to or want to contact any board member, you just write the name and then at MAWDC.org, and that's how you can contact anybody. Or if you just write info@MAWDC, you can see that down there. That will come to me, and I answer the mail, as Joanne knows, because that's how she first reached us. And this is our summary of programs that we currently have scheduled through the beginning of summer. Obviously, we'll augment that as time goes on. Of course, the one tonight, Dr. Brian Lovett and Matt Casson, in addition to the secret Washington, D.C. And I'll go back to that. And every program, there is a mushroom identification for those of you who are trying to learn to identify mushrooms, which is one of the hardest things to learn to do. So one of the reasons I do this, because we are officially an organization, and we do encourage you to think about at some point becoming a member of the board in addition to becoming a MAW member. We had a board meeting on Thursday, and we do have business to do. And one of the things we do now and then is we have to change our bylaws. So this particular meeting, we've had this issue because most of our programs, or many of them, have been given by MAW members, because we've got a very, very qualified group of membership. And our bylaws said we couldn't provide our standard honorarium to a member. So we thought that was kind of unfair. And so the bylaw change is here. And you can see that the current requirement is no member shall receive any compensation. And so we're changing that to the bottom proposed change. Any member accepting the board of directors who presents a program will get the same thing as any other person. So it's not making any exclusion. So I'm presenting that now. I'll bring it up again at the next meeting, and then you're going to get a vote. And that's how we're going to do it. That's pretty much all the business we're going to transpire tonight, other than a few things. We're talking about starting up a schedule and education committee, or we have scholarship and education to try and provide some academic funding for projects that are of value to the fungal community. And we're looking at some innovations on doing a cultivation workshop of some sort, and we're trying to get back into culinary. Forays have started. As I mentioned, a lot of people and don't get frustrated by the morel thing. In the fall, you'll find many more mushrooms, and it's just morels now for the most part. There will be a photography contest later in the year, so if you're taking pictures, save them. We have an annual event in Pennsylvania. We've been going there for about 20 years now, called Sequinoda. It will be 10 to 12 September. It's on the website. We haven't opened registration yet, but we will do that shortly. And finally, NAMA is the North American Mycological Association. They have a foray in Colorado in 11 to 15 August. It's a YMCA camp in Snow Mountain, and their registering will start up in a couple weeks. So the last thing I generally try and talk about is what's been going on in the news, and a couple things that cross my desk or people send me. You're probably familiar with the whole issue of the psilocybin or psilocybin mushrooms, the magic mushrooms, the shrooms. It's been ongoing news, but this was the first time this antidepressant, it was tested against a standard antidepressant. And the quote there I have, that it performed very well compared to a standard. So again, more on that later. If you're familiar with the tree of heaven called ailanthus, it's an import from China. If you drive down the highway, you'll find it everywhere. It's a nice looking tree. That's why it's called tree of heaven. But it's also a problem as an invasive. So they got a fungus now that is apparently able to at least debilitate it somewhat. And then on the bad side, this is out of Science magazine, the intestinal bleeding is a problem. It's the IBD. So apparently fungi get in there because the bacteria are killed by the antibiotics, and so the fungi take over. So they're trying to learn to deal with that. The fourth item there, Tom sent me this. It's a really compelling video. I watched the YouTube thing about some truffle hunting in Italy. It's just some octogenarians and their dog who was almost as old. Really a fascinating subject. And finally, I don't know if you caught Fresh Air today on NPR, but Dr. Suzanne Simard, she's the one who came up with the whole mycorrhizal thing with the trees talking and the mother tree. Just fascinating. If you get a chance to get the podcast or anything, it was just very well done. I happened to listen to it today.